All right. So, and thank you very much for joining me this afternoon in doing our post-observation. Let's just get started with how do you think it went?
For the most part, I think it went pretty well.
Okay.
Students are able to kind of communicate with each other and also learn from each other, and also becoming their own expert in whatever resource they were designated.
Gotcha. So what were some of your impressions or thoughts about how they're interacting and how they're able to show you that expert level of understanding?
From when I was walking around, they were engaging in meaningful conversations, and based off of what they submitted, I was able to identify some learning needs and kind of adapt my instruction moving forward.
Okay, very good. I kind of saw that as well in seeing how they were able to, that interaction. I saw a few students, especially where there was one of them was leaning over like, I'm not understanding, and they were able to kind of guide them and help give them some direction. So that's really good. That shows that not only are they comfortable with their understanding of the content, but being able to help them with directions as well. So that definitely speaks volumes to your ability to get them to be comfortable in class, as well as being able to provide that level of kind of expert knowledge. So well done there on that. So what do you think is something that you noticed about their recall, like in getting them to provide that previous knowledge that you had done prior to this lesson?
Well, before they basically have like an understanding of what coal is, but maybe not how it's applied, and a lot of them actually didn't even know that it comes from like rocks in our earth. So just being able to see that for them was a pretty cool thing, and just seeing them facilitate that conversation. The same thing for metals, like today we kind of elaborated on that and how certain metals are literally rocks in our ground, and that's hard to really think about when our version of metals, like things like on our computer, and like they just don't really see it coming from like the ground and stuff,
like
and
some sort of finished product.
Yeah, and so I was able to kind of deepen their understanding of things that they're actually using.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a great observation. And in your experience with this, with their being able to pull that recall into the activities that they were doing, doing that checking, the becoming that expert in a given mineral, what were some of your experiences with seeing the light bulbs go on for some of them?
Well, some of the light bulbs were like whether the resource was renewable or non-renewable, kind of even talking about what even it means to be renewable and non-renewable. And then just for us to think about what we use in terms of that, like, for example, a lot of them didn't know like plastics kind of come from fossil fuels.
Right.
And so we're able, like, as a school, we gave out water bottles, so a lot of them still had them. So we're able to kind of use that and bring it into the lesson, like in today, for like just making them realize like, oh, we actually use way more than we actually are thinking about.
Right. Well, and that's awesome too, because again, that was one of the notes that I had here in my notes is that you had a great understanding of being able to take the application of concept and bring it into their real world experience, especially for kids at this level. I think that's really important. Let's talk a little bit about some things that. What were some of the things that led you to really know that these kids were getting it?
Some things that led me to know that they were getting it was what they were filling in, but also what they're able to explain to their partners and how they're able to explain it. Because like you said earlier, their ability to be comfortable enough with their own knowledge to then now spread that knowledge and basically teach another person, because they're only responsible for one resource. Right. And so part of their job was to articulate a way in which another group member could record the appropriate information by using their own words.
Excellent. Let's take a look at the clip here. One other thing that I saw you really doing, and I just want you to take a look at it and tell me what you think, but something that I noticed is how you're able to gauge them to a higher level. So let's take a look at that real quick, that little bit right here.
Gaps of information. Remember, we're trying to learn from each other as best as possible. So, who can give me an example of 5 different resources? Raise your hand. Go ahead, Jake.
Air, soil, energy, water, minerals, and
Air, soil. What did you say?
air, soil, energy, water.
Is energy a resource? Yeah. What kind of energy? or what kind would be renewable. So if you
Okay, so what did you notice about your interaction with those couple of students while you were doing that?
I noticed that it was the opening to our class discussion about basically what they're able to extract from the opening video, which was an expansion off the previous lesson. And then I noticed the student was listing off the resources that were there. And I thought I heard energy, and I just wanted to make sure I heard it, so I wasn't just gonna go off on a random tangent.
Mhm.
And so that's why when she repeated it, I wanted to make sure that they understood or at least engage in that critical thinking of like, okay, yes, it's a resource, but like more or less, how is it a resource?
Right, absolutely. And I actually had that down here as something as part of the standard 3.1 that we were talking about wanting to focus on, especially that expert, right? Like, okay, if you feel that that's a resource, you need to, if you're an expert, you should be able to explain that to me. Asking them that why, getting them to get deeper with their explanation and understanding, I think shows that you do have a demonstration of the subject matter, and that's only going to continue to show through your teaching. So awesome job on that. And so now we're talking about your learning from this. What's something that you notice in the video here that, especially in that brief little clip, what's something that you're going to take away that's going to further your learning?
I think just by watching this, I did not like how when she was repeating her answer, how I kind of stopped her at the point. Like I feel like I should have let her finish and then talked about the energy.
Okay.
And so it's great to see that in the video so I can make sure to focus on that moving forward, especially when it's student-led discussions and that kind of classroom setup.
Right. And then lastly, most importantly, I think, Mr. Hand, I think you did an amazing job with your lesson. You do have a command of your classroom. I think that your students are benefiting from your knowledge of the content. I think that moving forward, just, continue with those checks for understanding. We'll get that 3.3 met a little bit more with fidelity. Because what I did notice in that previous clip, and I don't know if you did or not, but it was 1 or 2 students that were answering your questions. The others were being kind of passive observers.
Yeah, and so like another way, that's what I was also thinking about just right now, is like I could, instead of having like a whole class, I could have them turn and discuss with your neighbor, because they might be more comfortable sharing in that setting as opposed to when all the attention is on them.
Right, and then doing a group share out.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Perfect.
just like having roles where like one person speaks for your group.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those things are in that those resources, that I provided for you. So if you have any questions or if you want any more, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to find those for you.
Appreciate it.
And then lastly, I want to make sure that I'm there for you and being able to help you in any way they can. So please, any feedback that you can give me, I would definitely appreciate it. Like what's been the most beneficial thing that I've been able to provide you? I would love to hear anything that I can do to improve as well.
Well, just you sharing your previous experience when you were teaching English and compared to like drawing on that, even to down to like your checks for understanding and how it's like applicable even across departments. And like your English room might have been very different from how my science room looks, but there's definitely practices that you can definitely implement and you can intertwine that will ultimately be beneficial to the students, which is who we're here for at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And what's something that I can do better or I can continue to improve upon as we continue our coaching cycle throughout the year?
Honestly, just being as honest as you can with me, because I'm a person like I appreciate constructive criticism. I'm constantly trying to be the best possible version of myself. At the end of the day, like anything you like, call me out on anything.
Okay. Well, Mr. N, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in, meeting with me. So what we'll do moving forward is we'll set up another time for me to come in. I might just come in, pop in, maybe not necessarily formally, just maybe just come in and see how things are going. Be able to provide you a few little pieces of feedback, maybe on a post-it note or something like that. And then we'll move forward with our next observation.
Sounds good.
Awesome.